There we are. Going live on the YouTuber. There we are, I believe. Live on YouTube. And here we are. Again, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thankful Thursday. And I'll turn the mic over to Lori, Dub, or Sharon.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start as usual. We're on lesson 303. So, good morning, though. I said good morning to Sharon, but I didn't say good morning to Lynn and Bob and Dove, and now Mickey's in the room. So, today's lesson is 303. The Holy Christ is born in me today. Ken says, this is a most beautiful lesson. Written at Christmas time, its theme, well, here, we're in Halloween, but um, I love Halloween and I love Christmas, both of them. Written at Christmas time, its theme is the familiar one of being born again. It is borrowed from John's Gospel, the well known account of the Jewish leader Nicodemus stealing away to be with Jesus. Born again in A Course in Miracles is not meant in the fundamentalist sense of religious conversion, but to denote making another choice. Thus, in choosing to see ourselves through the eyes of Jesus, we are born again by virtue of having awakened to the truth that God is our source, not the ego. Shifting from the ego to Jesus as our teacher is thus the underlying theme of this lesson, movingly expressed in the symbolism of Christmas. And that comes with the first paragraph. Let me take a drink of water here. Watch with me, angels, watch with me today. And there's a song by the 12 Great Rays that uses that line. God, let all God's holy thoughts surround me and be still with me while heaven's sun is born. Let earthly sounds be quiet and the sights to which I am accustomed disappear. You know, I'm going to turn this over to Sharon because my throat doesn't feel good talking right now. So I'm going to give this to you.
Okay, I'm here. All right, so we're looking at the second coming, and he talks about that in his journey through the workbook. Ken does. But today's reading is "For they have come," and that's when an ancient memory comes across all of our vision that we remember. And you just have to just go inside and see that's a remembering of who we truly are. So this strikes a memory. Very early on, before I just opened the course, I think I was like 52 years old. I don't even know, but I went to a rebirthing retreat. My son Andrew took me there. I mean, sent me there. I went by myself. And I had a lot of stuff breaking up, and again, the past, there is no past. This is just the ideas in my mind that I'm expressing. But back then, I had no clue what I was. I just knew I just opened the book and I went to a rebirthing retreat. And I was having stress from every which way that I could ever even explain. I think everybody at this retreat hated me. Actually, that would be me seeing that I hate me, and I know that. But at the retreat, I kept interrupting. I was in so much trauma from everything that had happened within those 5 years of losing my house, my business, my identity. And it was a change in identity. And so when I got to this retreat, I was diagnosed with fibro, chronic fatigue. I had all of this. Now it's interesting. I just brought that up again because Ken had a teaching this morning that he was saying basically, that the body healing means nothing. It means absolutely nothing to heal your body because it's all mind. And we all know that. So I'm singing to the choir. However, we all want our bodies healed because there's a belief there that we're still this body and we're not. Because we can't be something that comes and goes. The body goes in and out. if you put attention on the unchangeable awareness, you can see that the body's actually flashing in and out. It's a projection from my mind. And I just think, as spirit, I just fell in love with Sharon. She was a character that I liked playing. And I'm sure all of our characters we like playing, right? Unless it was a day that I wanted to kill myself, because I've had days like that too. But at the same time, you know, when we try to heal something that's not real, we have to come back and say, what am I believing I am? Like, I mean, I get up in the morning and I'm always stiff, always stiff. Now, of course, that's a belief too, but I am going to be 71 and I am getting older. And, I haven't exercised that much this week. I wanted to give my body a rest. But when I realized that it's all mine, it's all the decision maker. The person is irrelevant in this dream. I'll say it again to teach myself. The person is irrelevant in this dream. So the Christ is always reborn when we remember who we really are. And that remembering comes up in this ancient memory. Because it's reborn, it's like every moment that we think we're a dream figure, we're believing in the Big Bang. And that Big Bang happens all through the day, that we feed the very animal we don't want to feed, the wolf that will eat us up alive. Because we are really just love, peace, gentleness, kindness, everything to make all that glitters to shine. And the world out there is nothing but a misperception. I see a different world than Lori and Doug and Mickey and Robert. Why is that? Because my thoughts are different and I'm manifesting whatever these thoughts are. Now, last week we talked about angels, and I said, why is it that we wouldn't believe in angels? We're not real, so angels are here. Angels are everywhere. They're just thought. And all of our thoughts are images coming from the oneness. So we could have anything here. I don't know what Gary Renard's new book is, but I have a feeling that it's going to be something with aliens, something like that. Now, honestly, I've never even read all his books. I have them, but I read certain parts and skip it because a lot of it is story for Gary. But it's still for me too if I want to hear it. It's just that you don't really come back here. You can't. Keith Kavanaugh just nailed it and said, how could there be? The DNA doesn't reincarnate. Yes, the IM does. The IM does. So if you have a memory, that's the IM remembering. But it is not the DNA. The DNA is completely conceptual. There is no way that Sharon will be revisiting Earth. And if there is, and I'm wrong, that'll be good too, because I'll probably get a better dream. Because there has been some real movement in this mind, movement to the present moment. And to realize that I'm so tired of playing with scraps of fear. That's all I'm doing all the time. To believe I'm right. I was listening to The End of Your World by Ada Yashante. I have gone to other teachings. They're all saying the same thing, but the Course is the best book if you want to really dig in and get deeper. But I also listen to Michael Singer's Untethered Soul. And they're all basically giving us different ways of movement that it doesn't matter what goes on in this field of nothing. That we are believing that there's some people that are on our side if they're a Democrat, and if they're a Republican, they're not. They can't be so, like, what's the word, advanced as a student of a course if they voted this way. That's the kind of bullshit that the ego gives us. It's just full of nonsense, and none of it makes any sense. So the second coming, he's saying, is a companion to the next summary. What is the last judgment? These two terms are used infrequently in A Course in Miracles, and the second coming only in the early chapters of the test. There, Jesus explains that the first coming of Christ was creation, after which the Son seems to fall asleep and wander into the ego's dream of materiality, bringing about his need to be awakened. So, on the individual level, this awakening occurs through attainment of the real world. The real world is when we see that there's only presence. This was over the moment it was thought, and it is a miracle that we know this now. It's a miracle to know that you were never this person. The person was just in your field and you took that identity on. But I'm everybody. I am Nikki. I am Dove. I am is everything, everywhere, all the time. So he's saying basically on the individual level, this awakening occurs through the attainment of the real world. The total undoing of the Son's dream, however, is the second coming, when the entire sonship has made the right choice as one son to awaken to the fact of its identity as Christ. The last or final judgment is our acceptance, again, as one son, that we were wrong and the Holy Spirit was right. Now, how does it feel to be wrong, everybody? It feels great, doesn't it? Finally, we're happy about being wrong, because who the heck wants to be a character that lives in time and is only playing with thought? I mean, if you look at, like, from the perspective of the higher self, this is the Holy Spirit says, you're crazy. Why would you think you're this measly little character? I was at school yesterday and I was looking at all my manifestations from my mind. And they were just beautiful because I saw everybody as a symphony of oneness. And how did I do that? Well, it's just paying attention to the space of total clarity, total love, total union. And a lot of times over the years, people would say, well, you didn't want this. And that's true on the deeper level, but we don't know when we want it and when we don't, because it has to let go on the subatomic level, on the deepest level. When spirit finally says, I'm done playing Sharon, I want to really just be who I am and enjoy this life as the space, because that's all we are, you know. So every time, it's all the first coming of Christ is merely the name for creation, and the second of Christ means nothing more than the end of the ego's rule and the healing of the mind. I was created like you in the first. I have called you to join with me in the second. I'm in charge of the second coming. That is Jesus talking. Now, is it Jesus the person? No. There's never been a Jesus. There's never been a Lori. There's never been a Sharon. It's a name of love, and that's what we all are. And I think a lot of times, if you grew up with a real positive opinion of Jesus, then you're going to really love this book, because Jesus is, but it's not Jesus, the man, because that would mean that we're real, and we're not. Who's talking is just a microphone of a voice called Sharon. So I didn't continue this, but when I was at this breath retreat, I am breathing, just breathing in and out, holotropic breathing. And I hear my voice say, I'm not breathing myself. That was my voice. And I'm like, wait a minute, who said that? And I couldn't get it all up, because here I am in a retreat where people really didn't like me, because I'd asked the facilitator 1,000 questions, because I just wanted the hell out of this mind. I mean, I was a loser as far as I was concerned. I lost everything. My child was sick. The most important thing was always my kids, right? As a person. And so, purpose does change everything, but I saw that I was nothing. And that kept this ego afraid to look within for years and years and years. When I say years and years, it really wasn't all that long. It was probably 20 years. But there was a fear of really saying that it's all me. And that just comes from guilt, just guilt and fear of God. The one fear that I never really understood until recently, until just completely let go and say, what the hell? I am God. There is nothing else here but God. Only God is real. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to you. And I just want to say today, I will not be in. I am leaving at probably 9:30. because I have a makeup art class. I'm going to Philadelphia again. I was there last week for a funeral for Halloween. And I have three little students that love to come to me. I have like a young class where it's just young children, and they're coming today at 10 o'clock. I love them. One's name is Maddie, the other one is Charlie, and the other one is Liam. And they are just the most precious balls of light. So I won't be in. I'll be back for Mickey's 11:30, but I won't be in Dove's. But I will listen, because listening in this group is exactly where I am guided, because everybody seems to be breaking out of their shell. Like the turtle, we just want to get out of the shell and be free. So that's it. Anyway, over to you, Dove. Thanks. You're on mute, Dove. You're talking and you're on mute. Sorry. So sorry,
Okay.
Dove.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Sharon, because that was a powerful sharing and encompassed so much. And you said a lot of the things that I thought I was going to say, so you already said it, so I don't have to say it. But yeah, we are having we slightly changed the name of the 10:30 hour. It's now called any one of these 22 lessons is the entire course. And so we've added 2 lessons to it's the whole course. Yeah. And we spoke about one of them. I think we spoke about both of them last week. So the first one is the one that's in the introduction to the textbook. That which is real can't be threatened. And he tells you he says, I'll sum up the whole course in these 3 lines. So obviously we make that number 21. And also the final prayer is also the complete course too. The final prayer, which we find lesson 361 and 365. Today we're on lesson I guess it's 186 or 216, I should say. No, I mean 206, which is I'm here for the salvation of the world, and that's true. And what do you need for the salvation of the world? Well, today's lesson 303 sums it up nicely. The Holy Christ is born in me today, and Ken Wapnick's commentary on that is born again, in Course in Miracles language, is not meant as the fundamentalist sense of religious conversion, but to denote making another choice. Thus, in choosing to see ourselves through the eyes of Jesus, we're born again by the virtue of having awakened to the truth that God is our source, not the ego. And that changes everything, because the ego is my source and everybody out there is doing something to me, and I got to defend myself. If I defend myself, I'm attacking myself. And that's like a insane merry-go-round where I stay in hell for the rest of my life. The only way to break out of hell is to ask to see things differently. Yeah, like lesson 28, above all else. That means nothing else means anything. Above all else, I'm determined to see things differently. And born again is exactly what this is about. It's about seeing through the eyes of spirit rather than through the eyes of ego, because ego sees form. And God doesn't create form. God creates spirit. Spirit has vision. And as I stop using my body's eyes to get my bearings, excuse the expression, I begin to let go of my identity or my identification with form. I thought I'd speak a little about something that came to me recently. John Mundy once he made a half-hour CD on watch your language, and that language can, depending on if you don't watch your language, your language becomes something that kind of determines what's going to be in your environment. And I realized that is true. Recently, it came to me that if you think nothing of using profanity, and a lot of us, including myself, think nothing of saying fuck, you start to attract to you, or maybe you don't start to, you attract to you because your mind is like a magnet in a way. You attract the experiences that profanity actually is talking about. So if you start losing things, say, oh shit, why is this happening? So you start to attract to you the experiences that profanity perfectly describes. Oh fuck, and now imagine if profanity wasn't in my mind's attracting ability. I could see life being completely different. Now, I think I sent to a lot of people here that Dr. Emoto from, like 20 years ago, somebody said, why did you send me this? This is 20 years old. Well, it may have been 20 years ago that the whole world found that if you say beautiful things, you get beautiful crystals. And if you say things that are darkened, you get darkened crystals. So that has been proved by Dr. Emoto 20 years ago in Japan. And even though I talked about it in those days, it's now coming to me in my own experience, that your mind attracts what it is that it identifies with, that it believes in. Oh, shit. And you get darkened crystals. Yeah. Can you imagine that? So what happens with a born-again mind? Born-again mind is one that, in today's sharing that Karen and I will be doing in a few hours, it's about recognizing that any one of these 22 lessons, it's a whole course, and it's really saying that I don't have to go through the drudgery of trying to learn something. I am the Holy Son of God. I am. And the Holy Son of God has nothing but beautiful thoughts to share, to give. That, let's start with the first one, because it's the bedrock of God's teachings. Trust. Now, trust is not something to be gained, like, well, if I do enough work, I mean, he says in the course, chapter 26, section 8, it says, trust would settle every problem now. You have no problems. Trust would settle every problem. But how can you trust in a world that looks like this? Well, the darkened image of the ego made a world that looks like this. Yeah, this is the darkened crystal, you might say. Dr. Emoto was talking about. The world is the darkened crystal. You know, everybody is looking to get, coming from lack, needing more. How can you trust in a world like that? You know, as Lynn says, you know, how can you trust? But her favorite lesson is, I trust my brothers who are one with me. So there's trust. And that's the first of the 20 lessons. Any one of these 20 lessons is the whole course. Because if you identify yourself as an ego, how can you possibly trust? Because the definition of an ego is, I don't trust. That's the definition. I'm going to do it myself. I don't need anybody. You can't trust them anyway. I don't want them close to me. I mean, that's my first line of defense. Don't get too close. That's exactly what Freud found out in his work. You know, as Ken Wapnick likes to report on. Freud began to realize that his best patients and clients really didn't want to get well. Don't get too close to me now. I like it the way it is. So that was the first of the three ideas that all of a sudden have a new meaning. Trust is real. It's not something that you try to achieve. It's what I am. Total trust, letting go of thinking I got to hold on to anything. I am as God created me. Totally imperfect. The second of the three ideas is innocence. Oh my God, innocence. Yeah. I mean, we were created innocent. Isn't it, you know, in that at last of the what is questions. The last one is, what am I? And I am God's son, perfect, whole, innocent, created in God's image. So innocence is not something that you arrive at by removing the guilt. I was created innocent. I am. That's my superpower. Innocence. Yeah. And then there is the third of the three, worth, your worthiness. And what is your worthiness? I am as God created me. Your worth is established by God, not by anything in this world of coming and going and teaching and learning. Nothing here establishes your worth. So all these three things, trust, innocence, and worthiness, is what we are. You might be dreaming that we are not, but that's where Dr. Emoto comes in, to restore the truth to the mind of God. So what is truth? Truth will set me free, like lesson 107. Truth will correct all the errors of my mind. No, truth is, it's an isness. God is. These are eternal isness. Like Mandy says, isness is your only business. And I'm going to be talking about this even in the next session with Karen. I'm talking a little about this. I'd like to put up a picture that some of you may remember. Does anyone know who this is? Anybody?
That must be Gary.
That's right. that's Gary 22 years ago when he did his first workshop ever in Quincy, which means he did it at Vicky's house. And he put up a thing. He's returning to Boston to do his next workshop. So he wants everyone to see his picture when he first started 22 years ago. I thought I'd put that up. And with that, I am complete. Over to you or anyone at all. Anyone want to share anything at all? Lori?
Well, Lori is not feeling great. So who would like to, would anyone like to talk about their Halloween costume? I mean, probably not, right? Well, I'm going to be a scarecrow and have Raggedy Ann hair. So, and I'm going out with, hopefully it won't rain because I'm going out with my kids here in Altoona. And then I'm going to take a train tomorrow to Philly to see my little Noah. Halloween was always a very, very, very deep holiday for me because there's something about dressing up that lets us just be free. None of us are happy being in this ridiculous costume that we wear, and we believe our costume is real, is our reality. So, like with the way the lesson is, the Christ is born in every moment in the remembering, and it's a memory. Remembering is a memory of total bliss, total love, and union. You know, forgiveness means our accepting what is by rejecting what is not. And, all of this comes when the seasoned spirit decides that it's ready, the readiness. I often talk about readiness because readiness does not come from the ego. In fact, none of this comes from the ego. The ego is just judgment. So we have never been informed, never, ever, ever. And the miracle is what tells us that none of this is real. If you ask Jesus for a miracle, you'll get a miracle because a miracle is just a change in perception. It's just beingness. Beingness is what the miracle is. So, and then of course, the theme of purpose is the focus. And that's something that Ken talks about too. The theme of purpose is the focus, the new interpretation. That emphasis is not about giving up the world of idols, our special attachments to the body, but of learning to recognize the ego's purpose so we can see how idols do not serve us well. I mean, in special relationships, for me, I had the craziest thoughts. I mean, I was like, who would vote for blah, blah, blah? And it's not my business what somebody believes in their mind. But the ego is arrogant, total arrogance. And how could we not want the ego? Well, the ego has to let go of us. And it lets go by not grasping. It lets go. You know what? My earbuds are going to come out. So I got to turn this off because this is, okay. This thing just sometimes just doesn't work. This blue thing. The ego is definitely not our friend. It's years ago when I first started the course, can you
Sharon, you just muted yourself.
hear me,
There you
Doug?
go. There you go.
Yes.
See, I can't. All right, I have to get out of this. So somebody else take the mic.
Okay.
This is Dove. Can I speak? It's
Yes,
Deb.
please, yes, go ahead.
I'm just loving listening in once again. Thank you all so much. I met this place in me where my body is giving me fits, and yet I know the ego doesn't even really exist. The place that I keep going back into it's in the mind. And I know there's a part of me that's the right mind and knows God and remembers God and is only here for God, and that there's no problem and never has been, and there's nothing to worry about. And then I've referred to it as being captured by the ego mind. I see the place of choice as before any decision. It's almost like there's I want to explore. I want to be one with God, and that's all that I want. And I can hear myself. It's not the I wanting it. I love that Sharon shared. She heard a voice saying, I am not breathing. Like the 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 thing that moves us, fills us, breathes us is not the ego. The ego doesn't really exist. And yet it's so hard not to believe in it. It's so hard not to, for me, it's so hard not to believe in it. And that's been a part of my dialogue ever since I can remember, which is really important. As Dove was saying earlier, I can change this dialogue with ease and grace. I rest in God with instead of saying it's so hard, because that's always been my motto, you know. It's like and and yet I've always known spirit, which I see as the truth of things, and it has nothing to do with who said what happened, blah blah blah. It's that essence of light, joy, peace, love. And that is, and yet, you know, I've shared with you guys I'm pursuing different health avenues, and every day I think I feel worse, like, and then the worry comes and all that stuff. And I know that I can't deny that I have a body, like I can't deny that this realm needs taking care of. But at the same time, I love the peace and joy that you share and your experiences of seeing the truth bursting in when we least expect it, when we don't even want it, when we aren't even looking for it, it's there. We've never left it. Anyway, I'll let you go, Dove. I just wanted to pipe in that I'm here and grateful for you. I will be, and when I'm missing, it's because I've been going to all these appointments.
Oh, and you know what, Deb? I didn't even finish, but Deb, what you shared just now was so beautiful. I love your voice. I could listen to your voice. It has a softness to it. And yeah, that would be a preference, but I think as a person, we do like soft voices. So, I'm going to give it to Dove and then I'll take it back again because I'm back again, I hope,
Well,
when the radio works. Yeah. Go ahead,
well,
Dove.
yeah. Well, first I would say, Deb, that was so clear. Your sharing is really clear, and clear sharing for me says that you're listening to spirit, and spirit is speaking to you and through you. As only spirit speaks as clearly as that. So happy to have you here as one of the teachers for sure. That's clarity is power. It really is. It tells you where you are. It says, I walk with God in perfect holiness. Yeah, I and the Father are one. That's clarity. I don't know if you want the mic back, but I put up this thing by Ken Wapnick. I don't know how many people saw it, but I'll just read what it says. I'm the dreamer of the dream. It's not somebody else's dream. It's not their dream dreaming me. It's my dream. Yeah. So when you take responsibility, you become cause. And that's what this whole course is about, is being cause rather than a victim or effect. Because as long as you're a victim or effect, there's no escape. You are meat for the ego to chew on. But do you reverse all of that by saying, wait a minute, I'm doing this to myself? That's the secret of salvation. I'm doing this to myself. You know, all those stories you tell yourself, you know, I learned how to say profanity instead of clear language. So I'm now attracting things that are darkened because my mind is darkened by the belief in profane words. If I use the word shit, things happen to me that are shitty. I mean, it's like the magnet. You know, I'm a magnet for what I believe. The big lie is, you know, the world. The world is shitty. Screw them. F you, right? You gotta laugh how we attract to ourselves the experiences of our mind and blame others for it. So the whole idea of blame is what this course is about, undoing the belief in blame, shame, and guilt. Blame, shame, and guilt is the ego's tripod of keeping us prisoners in a I used to have that down pat, living a life sentence on death row in solitary confinement, and they lock up and they throw away the key based on blame, shame, and guilt. Okay, over to you. Laurie has a hand up. Laurie, it's your mic.
Okay, thanks, Dove. I just wanted to make a few comments on things you guys were saying. And also, I'm reading Jesus, My Autobiography by Tina Louise Spalding. And I don't know about all these channeled materials, but there was a line in there that a paragraph in there that really struck me. And it just, I mean, it's talking pretty much about I was just a normal guy, and he's emphasizing I wasn't just the Holy Son of God. I mean, I became one with God, but basically what the Course says, that we are all the Holy Son of God. But anyway, he was talking about praying and connecting with God. And I wrote this down because it just stood out to me. He said, I understood it to be this being of God, but that was not really what it was. It was a loving force of awareness. It was a loving consciousness that was not chiding me or judging me as the God that I had understood was described. It was the most unconditionally loving force. And when I was by myself, when I was able to go into meditation, I came into direct contact with this consciousness. I was given information. I was given knowing. I was given understanding. And I was given a profound and deep comprehension of all I was being taught and all I was being shown. And I just loved that. It just felt so loving and so connected to Source, to God. What it made me feel was, well, I read that and I went, well, that's what I feel. That's what I feel when I read the Course. That's what I feel when I read any spiritual material, or that's what I feel when I go into meditation. And so I think the ego had been telling me, you don't feel God's love. You don't connect to God. You're just not there. Like that's one of the common ego things. You're not there yet. But we are. And I liked what you had said, Sharon, about, just let everything go and just said, yeah, I am God. Certainly not our ego self. Our ego self is not God, but we are imbued with all of God's powers. And when we abdicate those, we get what you were talking about, Dove, about those darkened crystals. We make up this world. And I know that I've been in and out of this dark night of the soul for about a month or so. I don't exactly know how long, but and I would, and fortunately, the last couple of days I've felt pretty good. But when I would take 100% responsibility, that's when I would feel better because I was in there going, God, oh, you're not helping me. You're not helping me. And this isn't, but of course, God is always answering our prayers. And when I was just saying, I've been doing this for 40 years and I should be further along than I am. Well, that is a common ego statement. The ego saying you're not doing it right, you're not doing it good enough, you're not having all these mystical experiences that these people talk about. You still have ego hatred in you, and so you're not doing enough, or you're not doing it right. And I was falling into that, all the while, knowing I would come out of this. And so it's like every dark night you come out stronger, and you come out even more aware. And that does seem to be happening, I hope anyway. But that profanity attracts the nasty stuff, but so does the criticism and the bitterness and the blame. And I was looking at it going, well, the default mechanism of this character and most characters is anger, rage, blame, or it might be sadness and despair, but it's a cycle of hope, oh, I can get something done, to anger, it's not working as well as I thought it would, to despair, like, well, nothing works, and then being upset, like, oh, I'm never going to get out of this, and then back to hope. But that cycle of hope and anger and despair is the ego. And the Holy Spirit's thought system is completely outside of that. It's in this moment we are connected to God in our meditations. We are connected. And so many people will say, well, I feel great while I'm reading the course, or I feel great when I'm on Gather, or I feel great when I'm in a study group. But then the minute I walk away, I'm back to the old stuff. And that's the ego identity that we have to shed and say, that is not me. That's never been me. That may seem like the default programming, but that is not who I am. Okay, Mickey, I'm going to turn this over to you. And after you talk, if Sharon will pick up, that would be great. Thanks.
Lori, I just love what you were saying, and it connects with what Dove was saying before, but it gave me a little bit of a different insight. I don't think we say profanities and then attract darkness. I think the darkness that is the undercurrent of of that unconscious attraction to the ego and attraction to separateness, and what caused the whole split in the first place is what attracts us to use profanities, to think dark thoughts, to go into a funk. And those dark nights that we experience are really um, backlash, because we do see the gloriousness every once in a while, and we go into oneness, and we have these transcendent experiences, and ego says, nah, no, we don't want that. Here, have a couple of dark thoughts, chew on this for a little while. There's a reason we're all here. There's a reason we came into bodies, because we're believing a lie, because we bought into it in the first place. So I don't know, I'm just babbling at this point, but I really appreciate what Laurie was talking about, and how we all have, we wouldn't be here if we were perfect and happy and oneness and love. So we have to give ourselves a little cushion every once in a while, um and and forgiveness for ourselves for even thinking that way or even believing that anything bad is happening. Anyway, I'll hand the mic over to Dove. Thanks.
Well, I'm back too, but you know what? Doug wants to go, then he can go, and then I'll go.
Okay. Hi, Miss Shara. I love your Halloween costume. I saw it. Thank you. Yeah. Skeleton costume. It's great. And
Oh, look at her. She looks great. Sherry, you look great.
yeah, and I think your mom was in the same skeleton costume too. She's looking very good, really. Let's see. It's amazing that that you just shared on yeah, we're not a body, as Mickey said. The funny thing is, we all know Nisargadatta. I just put his posting on, and Ramana, and they both said the same thing today. This is what Ramana says. You are ever free. You are not the body or the mind. You are pure awareness, eternal and infinite. Ramana. What do you think Nisargadatta says? He says the same thing. He says, you are not the mind. You are the awareness in which the mind arises. And that comes from his book, I Am That. The voice in your head, very important, the voice in your head isn't yours. And that's probably one of the most difficult things for us to get. The voice that I listen to, that I think is my voice, it's not it's the ego's voice. And then there's a guy that says, you are the silent field that it dances upon. That reminds me that I forgot one thing when I'm talking about the thing that Karen and I do at 10:30 Eastern time here. Every one of those 20 lessons that Jesus says, any one of these 20 lessons is the whole course. They all start the same way and they all end the same way. And we all know what that is. I am not a body. I am free. I am still as God created me. God doesn't create bodies. But we who identify with bodies, that's like identifying with the word shit. It's the same thing, you know. You attract to yourself the dark crystals, baby. And all those 20 lessons end the same way. So even though we think that the thing in the middle, those italics, like I trust my brothers who are one with me, or today's lesson, I'm here for the salvation of the world. We think that that stuff means something. No, the opening and the closing, I'm not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me. That is what clears the rubbish, gets rid of the garbage. God doesn't create garbage. Or as they used to say at IBM when the computers were first coming out back in the 50s and early 60s, where I happened to be working at the time, Gigo, Gigo, garbage in, garbage out. And with that, I'll turn this mic on over to whoever wants it. Anyone?
I'll take it. Yeah, I was reading this morning. I don't know who was listening to Ken, but he was talking a lot about reversing effect and cause, and he guided us to this page 595. And I just want to read this as the closing. You know, the whole point is the language in the course can, at least for this mind, was a challenge because all of these words were Christian. I grew up Jewish. And, you know, I also had people who like persuaded me to know that if you don't know you're Jewish, then, you're dead because, the whole Jewish story. So, with the way this is, because salvation is awakening. I mean, all the words are just beautiful words when they are changed. But, I change them even when I read them sometimes. The ego will react like, well, what's the salvation? Because everybody would always say to me when I first started the 12 steps, are you saved? And I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. Saved? Well, that's a Christian thing. Jews don't say that. Jews just don't. I mean, I don't know exactly what, Dove is more religious than me, but in Judaism, we know that the I am is absolute. I mean, it just shows you right away in the Ten Commandments, right? So, when they would ask me if I being saved, I hated it. I hated it. I remember one time I was at my art school and these two men came up to me, one like really, really angry, and he said, Sharon, if there was a fire in this building, would you want to would you want me to tell you? I said, yeah. He said, well, there's a fire in your building. You haven't been saved by Jesus. I said, first you have to believe. I said, so what does that mean? He goes, you're going to hell. I said, first you got to believe in hell, and there is no hell. Hell's here. Haven't you seen it? This is before I started the course. So that's why I think the mind of the ego in Sharon was like, oh, I hate this word. But all of it is nothing. When I look around, I realize every human that I'm talking to is a concept coming from an image in my mind. So here, this is the on 12 at bottom of 595. The world is full of miracles. They stand in shining silence next to every dream of pain and suffering, of sin and guilt. So, like, sin is separation, right? That's all it is. We're not sinners because we're not separate. I think this is an ingenious book. It really is. So then it says, there are the dream's alternative, the choice to be the dreamer rather than deny the active role in making up the dream. Now, that took years for me and a lot of humility for me to get that it's all me. Because victim consciousness is the attraction that I had. Because if I'm a victim, nobody could hurt me. I decided that when I was a kid. Like my mother, she got mad. I didn't react. I just stayed quiet. I was completely in silence because I knew I would get her more upset, right? So it was kind of like you learn what you can and can't say, but all of it is just conceptual. There is nothing here that's not. So then it's saying here, they are the dream's alternative, the choice to be the dreamer rather than deny the active role in making up the dream. That's when you're home free. That is what I believe, either it was Mickey or Deb had said, when they take 100% responsibility, that's when you're free. Even if you don't believe it, just say it, because the mind only likes when you work with it, not against it, right? Because when you're working against, that's not me, that person. Do you know what my husband did to me? That's what I used to do. It was a kind of a great story, though. I played the victim, right? But anyway, they are the glad effects of taking back the consequence of sickness to its cause. The body is released because the mind acknowledged this is not done to me, but I'm doing this. That's when you fly away. Sure, it's all happening by itself, but happening by who? It's happening by us. The one sun that's doing this. One mind's waking it. And thus the mind is free to make another choice instead. Beginning here, salvation will proceed to change the course of every step in the descent to separation until all the steps have been retraced, the latter gone, and all the dreaming of the world undone. And how does that happen? It happens only in the moment. It happens only in the holy instant. We are all free. It's funny because I would say I'm not there yet. Well, how could you not be there when that's all that's here? That's what I'm teaching Sharon. How could you not be this? There's nothing else here. Everything else is like, I love the song Raindrops and Roses because it's all this whimsical stuff. And I'm very whimsical as a person. So it's kind of like, it's a lot of fun to know that all I'm seeing here are concepts of love or a call for love. And that's all I have. Anybody else want to close? because I'm done. I am done. We got 2 minutes there, Doug.
I just want to put, that's the gong. That's it. It's over. No, it's not over
It's
yet.
over. We're free. Let's all just jump around.
No, that's Zen Master Suzuki, and that famous saying that I've used here so many times over the many years. Leave your front door open and your back door open, but allow your thoughts to come and go. Just don't serve them tea, which
I love
means
that. Yeah.
don't meditate on any of your thoughts. As Nizikadata said, they're not your thoughts. Okay.
No, but that's all of that takes time. See, Dub, you had the advantage of really getting this when you were young. But I feel at this point like there's no reason to be upset about anything. And I'm just staying with that because the upset comes from thought.
I'm going to ask Lynn. Lynn, could you put the link, that short link that you have for our section on YouTube? I love that link. I want to send it to some people. Thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
All right,
Okay,
I'm going to listen on the radio because I am going to teach, and then I'll be back at 11:30 for Mickey. See you guys. Love you all.
See you all at 10:30, 1 hour from now.
Hi, Sharon.
Bye. Oh, Lori, I'm so glad that you feel better.